Hi, and welcome to Kate's Paper Creations. Today's video is all about casing the catalog, and I have a variety of cards to show you today, all of them cased from the catalog and using the stamp set Hand-Drawn Blooms. So I'm using that stamp set. The cards are pictured on pages 130 through 132. So here's the catalog. Here's a couple of the cards, and here's a whole page full of a bunch more of them. And then there's another page here. Get this where you can see it. And there's a couple of more projects here. And so I have imitated those as closely as I can, and I'm going to just share with you how I did that. I'm not going to go through making them, but I will share with you all of the colors and dimensions and things like that. So let's just start with this one. Very, very pretty. This is a note card size. Stampin' Up! Sells note cards and envelopes, and so they are 3.5 by 5. And they are still mailable with standard postage. This card is made with the Hand-Drawn Blooms, the large blossom stamp, stamped with Versamark and embossed with white embossing powder. And when you're stamping it on, just stamp far enough apart that you can come down, and then you can come back and do another stamp kind of in the middle. And then these sequins that you see, these beautiful little sparklies on there, those are the Artisan Blooms. Yeah, Artisan Blooms adhesive backed sequins. Just add a little touch of sparkle. The paper is from Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper. It's one of the colors in there, and I cut it to the exact size of the front of the card, which was 3.5 this way by 5 this way. This sentiment came out of let's see if I made a note here. It's the die is from Ornate Frames, and the phrase is from Woven Heirlooms, and so that's where that came in. It was stamped with Pacific Point ink. So that's the details on that card. Then there's this card, and the backing, it's a Whisper White thick. It's cut 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4 for a base card. And this backing that you can see is some of the Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper cut to the full size of the front of the card. So that's 4 1/4 by 5.5 and attached. This next layer is Pool Party, and it was cut 3 3/4 by 5 1/4, and then I used the detailed trio punch to put corners, rounded corners on it. After I got it made, I was thinking I might have liked to have this piece be just a little bit smaller, so you might want to try it at 3.5 by 5 and then round your corners. This again is the die in that set, the Hand-Drawn Blooms and the Banner Blooms dies. So this is the die that you cut this out with. And what I did is I used the double-backed adhesive, double-sided adhesive, so that when you are ready to place it down, it has, you can just peel it off and stick it on with adhesive. Again, it's got the sequins from the Artistry Blooms adhesive backed sequins, and the die itself was cut out of some of the paper from the Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper. Then what I did to get this white here so I could stamp on white here is I took this die and I just placed it on some white paper, and I traced these shapes, and then I cut them out. I used an X-Acto blade to cut them out. You could even use snips, scissors to cut them out, and they fit perfect in here. And then I was able to stamp them and just glue them into place. And I raised this Pool Party piece is on dimensionals. So that's that card. I have my little cheat sheets here so I can remember all of this and not be too confused. Okay, here's the next one. This one is the one that's actually on page 132. And for this one, I punched it out again. It's Whisper White, backed with double-sided adhesive. And I punched it out with the die cut. And then I colored it using these water brushes. These are new in the catalog this year. And so I'm going to show them to you because there's 3 sizes. They hold water. We used to have water brushes before, but this one comes in a set of 3, and there's 3 sizes. Now I only used the smallest size, just so you know. But that's something new in the catalog that you might want to get your hands on because they're very, very nice. Let me put those away. And I just colored it, and I used a very wide variety of colors. Let me get you my list. The base card here is Balmy Blue. It's cut 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2, so it makes a top fold card. And I didn't feel I needed to put white on the inside. This is light enough that sentiments can be written in there without having to have the white in there. So then I colored this. So this next layer here is Highland Heather. It's 3 1/2 by 5 1/2, so it just kind of creates that centerpiece. Then it takes about a 4 by 5 1/2 inch piece to cut this die out of. So that's what I cut, and then I backed it with the adhesive, and then I die cut it out. And then I colored it using the brush, and I used Granny Apple Green, Highland Heather, this is Magenta, this is Rococo Rose, there's some pumpkin in the center of these flowers, Daffodil Delight on the edges, this one is Highland Heather, these are Misty Moonlight, these little ones, and I think those are all the colors. So those are the colors I used, and I just brushed the color on. So there's that one. Then this one, super simple. This one is a 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 A2 card. So you cut it at 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, score it at 4 1/4 to make a side fold greeting card. This is some of that Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper, beautiful paper. This is just Whisper White regular. It is cut out with the second largest stitched rectangle die. Then this is stamped. This is just the stamp in the set. It is stamped with Magenta Madness, as is the sentiment, stamped with Magenta Madness. And then I stamped just the bow part with daffodil and hand cut it out and stuck it over the top. So it looks very similar. Added a few of those sequins, and this piece here is raised. So whatever die is, it's about 3 3/8 by 4 3/4. So whatever rectangle die matches that. Okay, so that's that card, and it was very, very simple because it's just stamped. This is one of the layering circles dies, and again the sentiment is stamped with Magenta Madness as well. Then I have one more for you. This one here, again, it's a standard A2 Whisper White thick base card. This design here is from more of the Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper. These sequins are part of the Artistry Blooms adhesive backed sequins. This is that stamp stamped on crumb cake with Versamark and embossed with white embossing powder. And then it is colored with our colored pencils. And I utilized colors out of both set 1 and set 2 of the colored pencils. I stamped the Thinking of You, which came from Woven Heirlooms, and I just fussy cut it out, but it was stamped with Tuxedo black ink. The little bow here is made from I can never remember the name of that stuff, braided linen trim. And so that's what that is. Now to get this, look here, I used those stitch rectangle dies, and I used, I think it was die 1 and no, number 2 and number 3. So when you have the set in front of you, let me get that out. So when you have the set in front of you and they're laying in here in the order, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So like that. So this would be number 2 and number 3. And I put them both on the white, Whisper White, or I mean on the DSP. At the same time, I held them in place so that they stayed where they were supposed to with some washi tape. And I ran them through together. Then this created that frame. And that frame I put on with the adhesive foam strips. And they are actually twice as thick as a regular dimensional. Okay, just so you know. So that's on there first. Then I put the inside piece is just laid flat with regular adhesive. Then this piece, once I colored it with the colored pencils, I attached it with dimensionals over this frame. And because this frame is twice as thick, you have to put 2 dimensionals on the back. You have to stack them so that it'll be the same level as the rest. So I put some around in here and I put one over here to hold it up. And then I just put the bow, and that's how I did that card. So I hope that you enjoyed casing the catalog today with a nice variety of different cards. I can't say that I made them exactly the way that they were made in the catalog, but they're close. And the idea, and that's the idea of the catalog, is just to inspire you to try new things. So I am glad you stopped by. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that if you do not have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, that you will consider shopping with me through my online store. You can go to katespapercreations.org, and there's a button there that'll take you to my online store. I also put all of the recipes for these will be on my These Are My Stamps site, and you will find that link through my blog as well. So I hope you'll stop by and visit me at my blog. Thanks for stopping by.